All right, some exciting news just dropped today. Eric July posted this, and he said that there's a possibility that more than 12 books will get released next year. There's always been talks, I think ever since after Isom #1 or during Isom #2, where the Rippaverse would ramp things up to get to a point where there's one book released a month. And that has always been, I guess, Eric's goal. And it seems like that's going to happen next year in 2025. I felt that that was always going to happen. Now we got to think about if it's really going to happen. As for me as a customer, I'm going to have to, buy the books, one book a month, or maybe several books and several merch a month, because I don't think he's just going to drop one book. There's going to be several covers. Are there going to be 3 covers per collection? We're not too sure. But aside from the logistics part of it and the financial part of it for both as a business and as a customer, I think this is a great opportunity for the Rippaverse comic book universe to expand, because there's so many unanswered questions. And when we as a fan base talk about theories and what these characters are and their stories and their backgrounds, there's a lot of interest on where these stories are going to go. So for example, at the end of Isom #1, and I'll post it up here, there's a few pages of this group called Norfrica, and everybody's been wanting to find out more about these characters and been asking Eric about when the book is going to come out. So very possible that we might hear more of this. And so this is Norfrica right in the back of Isom #1 if you have it. Norfrica is talked about here, and it's a whole different group of excerpts, and they're kind of godlike in a way. So in this panel here with Takari, he says, besides, there isn't much that we can do until they make a move. We just need to stay alert. We cannot risk calling in the cavalry quite yet. So who is they? Who is the cavalry? So just from that dialogue alone, there's more to that group, Norfrica, and whatever entity or people that they're going to fight. And so are we going to see some of that in the next books? Probably. There's 12 books for content and stories. So this might be in there. The next thing is the Great War of Separation. And so we first heard of this in the Dokumaan Archives. So this is Brian Solari. And right in the back, if you have your Dokumaan cards, look in the back. And I'll post it up here. But basically, right at the very beginning of his background, it's mentioned here, a veteran of the Great War of Separation. His journey started with the Texas military, the result of a rather successful experiment, so on and so on. So the Great War of Separation is mentioned here. And this happens before Isom #1. So will the books come out reference that? Or will the books come out actually be in that timeline during the Great War of Separation? So that's where Brian Solari started. Then I'm sure there's a few or a lot of excerpts mentioned in that timeline. So Great War of Separation, will that be in the 12 books? Who knows? Another part of the story that we're probably going to hear more of is Yaira and her kind. The 2 beings that came to visit them, they're speaking a different language. Magus Newmite came. I don't even know what that thing is. So is there another type of people or Yaira's kind of people elsewhere out in the universe or some other planet? And will that tie in then to the next thing that I'm going to bring up is Zalen. Chuck Dixon announced the Zalen character. And so he's in the cosmic realm of the Rippaverse universe. Are there going to be ties in there to Yaira's people in a different world, on a different planet? And so Zalen is going to be one of those books. So that's another interesting thing to think about, if those 12 books are going to talk about Zalen and more of Yaira's kind. And another thing, the Rippazine, the Rippaverse magazines. So we've already had 1 and 2 where 2 new characters were introduced, Salvage and also Sersha. They're both private investigators. So are we going to see more new characters introduced in the Rippazine? Rippazine 3, 4, 5, or possibly 6 in next year? We don't know. But these short stories are very, very good. And it gives us an insight into where the Rippaverse is going in terms of maybe new genres, new characters, new maybe new areas of the world. Because right now we're all kind of focused on in Flores Park City and Avery's Ranch, but there's other states involved, right? And that's another thing, right? Between the Great War of Separation, there's been theories about how there's all these different states, and each state is kind of like their own country. So there's no such thing as a United States, or at least in the current comic book universe where Isom #1 and Isom #2 are. But was there a United States in the past, and they just kind of separate, and that's what we call the Great War of Separation? We don't know. But those are all the great stories I think we could look forward to in these new upcoming 12 books that Eric July is hoping to produce next year. So this whole 12 books next year, I think this is the first time Eric ever mentioned 12 books to be published in a year, or at least having that become a goal. So it speaks volumes to what his goal and mindset is in terms of how he wants to take this company, take the comic book universe, and just have fun with comics, right? So I'm excited for it. Many other people are excited for it, and I think you should be excited too. So if you have not heard of Rippaverse, head over to rippaverse.com and get the books that are still available for sale. Isom, you got Yaira, you got Alpha Core, you even got the Rippaverse Trinity book that combines all those first 3 books into one, a hardcover and a softcover. So you can get right into that, get a foundation of all the awesome characters that have already been released in the very first year of the Rippaverse, and you just get to know like what the Rippaverse is all about. So this is some great stuff. So again, this is the goal. I recommend bookmark this post here, because if Eric July pulls this off, it'll be really amazing, because then that's the standard for even going on to 2026, 2027, and more years to come. So if you're excited too, don't forget to like, repost, comment, and let's talk about Rippaverse, because there's going to be a lot of stuff to take in coming in 2025.